زيتوني نائب مدير منظمة الأغذية والزراعة في إيطاليا. دكتور you are welcome please تفضل.
هذا اللقاء فنجد مسرور للمشاركة والمساهمة، والآن اسمحوا لي أن أعطي عرضي هذا باللغة الإنجليزية. So thank you very much for the kind invitation, and I'm very happy to add some thought to this debate about food loss and waste. And let me start with the situation where we are at the moment with regard to the global situation. We have the climate crisis that is unfortunately impacting heavily on agri-food systems and livelihoods around the world. So climate change is touching now every part of the world. And we have also the biodiversity loss crisis and the ecosystem degradations that are also significantly adding to this impact. The COVID-19 has added around 150 million more people who are food insecure as a result of this pandemic. And we already have around 830 million around the world people who are going hungry every day. So you can see how these crises, and in addition now to the war in Ukraine, who's also impacting on global food security. So food and agriculture have become very high on the international agenda, and global food security has become an important issue. And I'm pleased to hear that the Egyptian presidency to COP27 is also recognizing this importance, and FAO will be participating through our Director General at the World Leaders Summit on the 8th of November that will be talking about global food security. And I'm sure that the issue of food loss and waste will come as well. Now, what I highlighted that unfortunately on one hand we have almost 830 million people going hungry every day. And on the other hand, we have around 2 billion people who are obese or overweight. So you can see the contrast we're living in. And in the middle of that, and in addition to this contrast, we also throw away the third of the food that is produced for human consumption. So it's a huge contrast and it doesn't make any sense. So we need to rethink our agri-food systems. We need to rethink our connection with food so we don't throw it away. We need to rethink how we can build agri-food systems that is compatible with the new reality of climate change. Agri-food systems that are resilient to these shocks I mentioned, including the COVID-19, the war in Ukraine. So we live in a new reality, and food loss and waste is the low-hanging fruit to start with, really, because we're all responsible for that, and we all can do something to reduce food loss and waste, because it is a big issue. We live in a decade of action to deliver the Sustainable Development Goals. And we only have 8 years left to 2030 to transform our world, basically. Sadly, all the action around the world that we're taking now, it's not enough. It's not enough to achieve these goals. Actually, we're not achieving any of these goals, unfortunately. So our world at the moment is really moving away from defeating hunger, from defeating poverty, from defeating climate change, and from achieving the Sustainable Development Goal. So what we need to do is really accelerate our actions and take seriously the issues of climate crisis and the global food security. And we need to innovate more. We need to focus more on solutions, on sustainable solutions. And this is what we would like the COP27 in Egypt to focus on more, to move from pledges, from commitment into solutions on the ground. And we are at the UN here to help with promoting that. In fact, we just published our new strategy on climate change, a new strategy on science and innovation in order to promote agriculture as an important part of the solution to the climate crisis and to the biodiversity crisis and other shocks that I mentioned earlier. And we need to start thinking about this as a solution because, as you know, climate change affects agriculture and agriculture affects climate change. So we have to make sure that agriculture going forward is an important part of the solution because agriculture has a big potential to absorb greenhouse gas emissions. It has a potential to adapt to the impact of climate change and to make sure that the system is resilient. And we're talking about not just feeding a growing population, but nourishing a growing population. So it's not just growing the food for the sake of growing the food in terms of quantity, but we have to address the quality, the nutritional value of food as well. And sadly, climate change is affecting that as well. So that's why we need to transform the agri-food systems to make them affordable and for providing healthy diets to the population. And just to conclude, I just want to say that for the food loss and waste, and we often underestimate that. But you know, the food loss and waste is responsible for around 8 to 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions. So if food loss and waste were a country, it would be ranked the third largest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions. And if we translate these figures into land area, then we estimate that almost 30% of the world's agricultural land is currently occupied to produce food that is ultimately never used by the consumer, that we throw away. Because when we throw away food, we don't just throw away the food. We throw away the water that was used to produce it, the energy, the nutrient, the effort, and the money. We lose money as well. We pay for that food. So when we express this in terms of energy use as well, it's almost 40% of the total energy consumption in global food systems is used to produce food that is lost or wasted. So you can see the food loss and waste represents really a severe concern for global food security and nutrition. It's a lost opportunity, and we can't just keep throwing food away. We have to take responsibility as individuals, as consumers, to connect better with food, to respect food, to value it. Because food, as you know, is essential, of course, to our life. But we have to respect it so we don't throw it away, and that leads to an impact on the environment, which comes back to us as an impact to our health and our well-being as well. So I hope that we can all really take responsibility, because the food loss and waste not only represent a missed opportunity towards food security and nutrition but for the world poorest in particular, but also in terms of food system vulnerability to climate change. So we have to all take responsibility really to address this issue. And if there is one big change we can make, is for us to start thinking about addressing the issue of food loss and waste. So I hope this helps, and thank you again for the invitation. And I hope that we can all work together towards COP27 and beyond to address the global food security and to make sure that we achieve a system that is equal for everyone, because we have enough food to feed everyone around the planet. We have just to distribute equally and everyone have access to that. So thank you again for this opportunity, and back to you.